welcome to Tune In to Wellness Today. My name is Lisa Marie Tersini. I am the host of today's show, as well as a certified holistic health counselor, nutrition coach, a healer, a Reiki master teacher, and someone who's here to help you with your health and well-being. Tune Into Wellness Today was derived by the concept of bringing to you, the residents of the Capital District and surrounding area, a myriad of people, practitioners, to teach you about their modalities, services, and products. Today I'm happy to say I have three fabulous practitioners that will be sharing their wisdom with us. And my first guest is Wendy Wood Ordway from The Body's Rhythm Craniosacral Therapy. Wendy trained in 1977 or graduated in 1977 as an occupational therapist. She's been practicing occupational therapy for over 34 years. She's also a certified craniosacral therapist, as well as studied in biodynamics, CST. Welcome, Wendy.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure.
So craniosacral therapy, my limited knowledge about it is that it is a form of gentle manipulation of the skull to help relieve pain, relieve stress. Can you expound on that, or would you expound on that for us, what you do when you're giving someone craniosacral therapy treatment?
Well, the first thing that people should understand is that it is not manipulation. It's hands-on healing.
Okay.
And the healing comes from the connection between the client and the practitioner. Its origins are in osteopathic medicine, which is the body's ability to do its own healing. And the biodynamic piece is connected with our biology, our beginnings, right from conception, development of the embryo in utero, the fetus, the birth process, and then, from there. So yes, it's all about the relationship between the client and the practitioner. People need to feel safe in the environment of treatment, which can be in the home setting. Many times with infants, I will see them at home. And in my treatment space, I want people to feel really comfortable and relaxed so that the healing can happen in a very nurturing, easy, fun way.
When you are actually treating someone, then so obviously you're laying hands on someone. From what you said, you're saying there's no manipulation. To use that word can be kind of it has a negative connotation. But are you laying hands on their skull? Where are you laying hands on the body?
Well, generally in a session, start at the feet.
Okay.
Connecting, asking permission to touch the person. Even before that, getting myself really centered, feeling my own body, really connected, really present. And then starting at the feet. And the body has rhythms, cranial rhythms that move the fluids. This is very much about our fluid body. So from the feet, you can start to feel the body's rhythm and feel any imbalance that might be there between one side and the other, connecting with just the heat of the body, feeling any tension, and just really just figuring out, what's going on and where that person is at. With a child, often it takes a little while to even touch them, and then having the parent involved so that they're actually holding the child while you're and often the hands, instead of palms down, you'll start with the palms facing away and feeling through the backs of the hands. So very, very gentle approach We have our body around us, our
Shell?
our shell. Our
Now, as an occupational therapist, I worked with a lot of occupational therapists. I have a 25-year career in corporate healthcare, specifically working with injured workers. So, as an occupational therapist, did you work with injured workers? People who were injured on the job?
Not too often, but yes, I did.
And where I'm going with my question is, did you notice, because you had the CST background on top of your occupational therapy?
Well, I didn't start CST until '97, so it was 20 years I was doing OT before I was introduced to craniosacral work.
Did you see some advanced healing for those that chose some of the CST work on top of the occupational therapy work, to those who did not choose that in your practice as you're working with people who perhaps were injured on the job, just to use that category of person?
Well, I moved in my OT career from working with adults in a rehab program where I did have some injuries related to work, to working primarily with children.
And so, right, so you did a lot of work with pediatrics.
Yes.
And you used a therapy called sensory integration therapy. What is that?
Sensory integration is being able to integrate touch and movement, and then, of course, our other senses, our hearing and sight and smell. But in therapy as an OT, it was very much focused on integration of touch and movement.
And do you have, is there a populace that is more, who will be healed by this more than someone else? In other words, we take a look at senior citizens, or so infants to senior citizens to middle age. Is there a populace that you feel most benefits from this type of work?
Well, I believe that all people can benefit from this work. There has to be, certainly in an adult, a feeling that, this is something that may help them, and a willingness to try, not being talked into it like, this is definitely going to help you.
Okay.
So with children, they are usually very open. And as long as they feel safe and nurtured and happy and being able to be with their parents and listen to a story or play with a toy, listening to music, and then slowly I can, start to get my hands on them and feel what's going on, and also teach the parents a little bit about what they can do.
So it's non-invasive treatment.
Yes.
And tell me some benefits that people will receive if they came to treat with you. What are some of the benefits they might receive?
Definitely helps you to be more in your body, more body awareness. Relaxation is often happens. People often fall asleep during a session. Sometimes children do too. And so more of a feeling of well-being, empowerment to taking charge of your health and being able to do something that really makes a difference.
Now, how about you? I'm going to ask you a personal question. What benefits have you personally received from these treatments?
I was experiencing some neck problems before I was introduced to craniosacral therapy, and I decided to give it a try. And after a couple sessions, I noticed a big difference. I did have some emotional release, which is sometimes part of a craniosacral session where you are blocked in an area and there is an emotion there. And so I did experience that, and it was quite profound. And it was like, wow, I want to learn more about this. And that was what really motivated me to start doing some training myself. And then I found, once I started the training, that I was able to use what I was learning in my OT work with children. And it took my IoT practice into another level.
Oh, I am sure it did. Is there a rule of thumb for treatments? Is there an average amount of treatments that someone needs, CSE treatments, that will bring them to where they need to go, or is it very bio-individual?
Well, it is very individual. It is recommended to at least give it 3 sessions to really see, because one session can be described as just a handshake, and then you move more into the hugging, I'd say, and really connecting with each other. So generally it does take 3 sessions. With an infant, though, a young child, sometimes one session can, their bodies are very fluid and very open, and so amazing things can happen. But with anybody, this can be possible too.
It's beautiful, and I understand you are practicing now in Connecticut, New York City, as well as here at Saratoga Springs.
Yes, that is true. My sister lives in Connecticut, and I am now living part-time with her, and am doing some work there. And then New York City, where my boyfriend is, I have some clients down there now, so I'm a traveling therapist.
You're a traveling therapist, beautiful. Thank you for staying in Saratoga Springs and keeping your talents up here for us as well. We do greatly appreciate that, and thank you so much for being here and sharing this wisdom.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I love Saratoga. There is just so much, and there's a great community of therapists. There's a biodynamic school in Greenfield, Marjorie Chasari, who I started studying with when I moved here in 2009, and completed her training, and then I became a teaching assistant with her, and she has brought and Michael Shea, who's an advanced biodynamic practitioner, to teach here. So I feel very, very lucky to be able to be in this area as much as possible.
Wonderful. We're very fortunate to have you here. Thank you so much, Wendy. If you would like more information about Wendy and the work she does, go online to thebodiesrhythm.com. And my second guest today is Trent Millay from Saratoga Mineral Water Tours. Trent spent over 30 years researching mineral waters worldwide, their health properties and propensities, the medical uses of them, as well as he studied the biomechanics of water and hydrotherapy. In addition to that, Trent himself has found himself healed through some of the Saratoga mineral waters. So we're going to talk to him a little bit about that today. Welcome, Trent.
Thank you very much for having me here, Lisa Marie. I
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
for being here. I love mineral water. I'm a proponent of it. I support it in my health practice. I drink it myself. And we know it's filled with wonderful things like iron and magnesium and some calcium and sulfur and salt. And I want you to tell all of us the health benefits of mineral water, first and foremost. And then we're going to find out the work you're doing on a worldwide perspective.
Well, I grew up in a clear, very plain glacier lake where you could see the bottom at 60 feet, so I thought of it as plain water. I came to Saratoga. I had a 20-year skin problem. I'd been on digestive enzymes 3.5 years. 4 days later, when all the symptoms were gone, I had to know why after 25 years of recording health and medical conferences in the highest level think tanks in this country. So I did 2 things. I went to the doctor's records, found out why doctors prescribed 150,000 treatments a year in our waters, and I spent up to full days at each spring talking with the people who came and utilized the waters and had done so all of their life. And I was just bowled over by the quality and the extent of the healing. We are, after all, 70% water. When you were in your mother's sacred temple first trimester, you were 96% water, and it was not chlorinated. The Saratogan waters are an exact replica. Our body is this water. Geyser, for instance, has 3 potassiums, 4 chlorides, 6 sodiums, absolutely perfect calcium and magnesium balance and just the right amount of natural, not what the psychiatrists give you, natural lithium responsible for neuron and brain cell development. So it's absolutely amazing how and why these waters were used over the years.
Well, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, or maybe just 100 years ago, it used to be called taking the cure at the source of the mineral geyser, right? At the source of the spring, I guess is what I'm trying to say. People called it taking the cure. So it's fascinating that we moved away from that, and that people moved away from that, and now we're coming back to it, and that's why I'm so glad to have you here today. What is the main source, or where can people obtain this water today? Can they still go to the source, to the springs, and obtain the water, or do they have to purchase it through a bottle? Tell me how that works.
Years ago, the carbonic gas companies were misusing our water for the extraction of carbon dioxide, and the state of New York decided to go to the European system of making sure the waters were available to everybody at no cost. So we still have 19 out of the original 65 pharmaceutical quality springs there, and you're available to go and get the water once you know how each spring, which has individual properties, individual health benefits, are used and collected also for enjoyment. We have a number of waters that were shipped worldwide because they tasted so good that way.
Now, you do tours, right?
Yes.
You host tours or hold tours. What time of year can people take a tour, and how do they go about doing that?
Year-round. During the summers, I'm at Roosevelt Baths and Spas, which is the, and I think qualifiably, the finest bathhouse in the continent that way. And I'm there Friday, Saturday, Sundays, and Tuesdays, giving 3 tours a week. You just need to show up. During the wintertime, if people contact me and say, I'd love to go down to the lower spa park and have a tour, that way I'm glad to take people down, as well as we do specialty tours. We've done yoga tours, we've done Qigong tours, we did an Honoring the Goddess tour, we have a poetry tour and a shaman tour coming up with Katrina Clay and Sherry Parcel, both of who have been on your fine program.
Wonderful women, right? Wonderful women.
And you mentioned 100 years ago. Presently, in Europe, Asia, mineral water is a third to 80% of all medicine when you look at areas of Russia. Germany will prescribe 105 million treatments in mineral water as medicine this year. Japan will send 6 million people to mineral water as prescribed medicine. France, 42,000 children alone, etc., etc. And they will all tell you that Saratoga has the finest water on the planet. The last International Hydrotherapy and Balneologist conference held here in 1957, the doctors said Saratoga was the finest health resort on the planet. And it is the only place in the continental United States that has naturally carbonated water with the characteristics that are used for arthritis, fibromyalgia, gout. By the medical records, we have a 94% success rate, for instance, at Roosevelt Baths in the improvement of rheumatoid arthritis, 93.1 in osteoarthritis, etc., etc. So in other countries, especially for chronic illnesses that medicine can't handle, it's water. And Roosevelt is truly the queen of the Saratogan waters, and Saratoga was rightly named the Queen of Spas. Some of the world's greatest water research was done there, and when you speak to European, German, Hungarian, Spanish, Japanese doctors, they are still using the Saratoga manuals developed right down there at Saratoga State Spa Park.
Isn't that amazing? Right here where we are the medical doctors locally in New York State sending people and treating people with mineral water?
It took a lot of effort to pull the waters out of medical protocol. President Roosevelt wanted a 500-room VA hospital on the spa reservation. The Roosevelt II bathhouse, which we're hoping will reopen as a wellness center so practitioners can utilize the water in conjunction with their own skills. That way, 92 to 96% of our veterans, depending upon the report, found vast improvement. And it was after that that it was quieted down due to the fact that certain corporate entities felt they could make more money if the water wasn't available for people to stay young and healthy.
There are other benefits of drinking mineral water, lowering your LDL cholesterol, which is your bad cholesterol, improving your skin. Overall health benefits. What have you seen with other people aside from yourself? And thank you for your testimony. What other benefits have you personally seen?
I have so many stories. For instance, when Old Red is running up to its usual mineral content, the iron in Old Red is a molecular pattern of hemoglobin in the blood. So I have never known that. There are several other springs with highly bioabsorbable iron, so it usually reverses chronic anemia very quickly, 2 to 4 days. Again, when it was up to its normal strength, I've never known it not to reverse eczema and psoriasis, pink eye. 3 of our waters were shipped worldwide for digestive problems. And it isn't just which water, it's how much, what temperature, what time or times of day you imbibe it, and how long you take to drink it. So for instance, when you get in the baths at Roosevelt, low blood pressure goes up an average of 5 points. High blood pressure by the medical records drops an average of 10 or 15 points. Doctors call that averaging. So the same water would be used for too much acidity and not enough, depending upon which side of your digestive cycle you introduced it at. And that's where the magic comes in. It's an arrangement, it's a it's a choreography that's just wonderful, as well as the springs are beautiful. You get down there among the geyser that's flowing out in the other springs. One spring, one geyser, one waterfall, one fountain that, like the people used to be smart enough to put in their lawns, non-chlorinated, ionizes air 1 to 3 miles in diameter. So the people who are consistently in that atmosphere find vast improvement just through the inhalation waters. And that's a story in itself.
That is a fabulous story within itself. Thank you so much for the work you do. I'm looking forward to taking one of your tours, actually, and learning more and seeing all about that. So if someone wants a tour, the best way to get a hold of you is to email you. Is that correct?
Or contact me through Roosevelt Baths and Spa.
Okay. Thank you so very much for the work you do. I think it's fabulous.
And I thank you.
You're
I certainly
welcome.
appreciate being here, and I love to see you in the flow of the waters and introduce you to each other.
Thank you. If you would like more information about the work that Trent does, email him at spiritflytrent@yahoo.com. Thank you. And my third guest today is the wonderful Laura Harrison from Laura Harrison Yoga. Laura, like so many of my guests, has a multitude of experience. She's a yoga instructor. She's a raw vegan chef, an artist, a dancer, a mother, and many other talents she has. Today we're going to be speaking to Laura about raw food, what that is, and how she prepares it, and how she helps other people to prepare it. Welcome, Laura.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you for being here. So
My
a
pleasure.
raw food chef, and actually you are a raw vegan food chef, correct?
Yes.
So you take it to another whole level. So tell me, I do understand that raw food, when I was in school studying nutrition, we studied 100 dietary theories. One dietary theory was raw food. So I have a understanding of it. Tell us a little bit more about what I know. And what I know is raw food can be cooked or uncooked. A lot of people think it has to be uncooked, right? But as a cooked food, it's cooked below a certain temperature. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, so somewhere between it, everyone varies a little bit between 104 to 120 degrees.
Right. It's a whole range, and it just really depends on a person's disposition. You know, whatever feels appropriate, whatever feels raw.
Whatever feels raw to them. And then is it true that in cooking the food, you do not want to cook it more than a certain percentage too, like not more than 50% when you're cooking it?
I don't do much with cooking in a more conventional sense. I warm water to do things like a miso soup. I'm one of those people, some people are very, very strict. For myself, I have a cup of coffee in the morning. That's not exactly raw, but that's pretty much the only thing that I would consider not raw in my regular dietary consumption. So for me, the methods that I use as far as warming is concerned would be more dehydration or very low warming, and I rarely ever even do that. So dehydration, just to warm it a little bit, unlock some of the nutrients in things such as tomatoes, where a little bit of warmth does make a difference in the properties.
And the belief system behind a raw food diet, or one of the major belief systems, is that if we cook our food too much, too high temperature, or too thoroughly, that we're losing a lot of the micronutrients that our body so much needs to be healthy. Is that correct?
Correct. And the living enzymes that help you with the digestion itself. And they say that if you continue regularly on a raw vegan diet, that you will build up stronger enzymes. And I will say for myself that that is exactly true. I mean, I was 100% vegan, but cooking my food, and I had a couple other factors interrupting my digestion, but switching to a raw diet made a huge difference. Broccoli, for example, I had to cook it softer and softer so that it didn't give me gastric distress. And then I thought there's no way I was ever going to consume, raw kale or raw broccoli. But at this point, even after about 6 months raw, my digestion changed and I was able to digest it no problem, no pain, no disruption, perfect.
Oh, that is very interesting. Tell me then what exactly is a raw food diet? What types of food are you cooking?
So for myself, it's 100% vegan, free from animal products. I do use local honey, and that's a choice some vegans make. That's kind of an aside.
Mm-hmm.
But so people usually wonder, what is left? No animal products, and now you're not heating things up. But nuts, seeds, sprouted grains, sprouted beans, fruits and vegetables, of course, and then things like sea vegetables, like seaweed.
Okay. And then you decided to go one step further and teach this. So are you teaching in homes? If I needed you to come into my home as an example, you would come into my home and show me how to do this? Is that how you work?
Absolutely. I usually have two modes. One is one-on-one, and the other is in a party format because it's fun. People gather together. I cook. So it's a presentation, but it's a participatory thing. People get to try it out. They get to ask questions. In the one-on-one format, I typically will do a 2-hour session with someone and meet them, get to know what they like, what they don't like, what their dietary goals, what their health goals are, and help them to come up with a basic menu plan, shopping list, so that they understand what a stock pantry looks like, because it's a completely different animal from a standard American diet.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I'm a big proponent of grains as a source of nutrients for people, calcium and a whole host of nutrients. How are you cooking grains?
I'm not.
Okay.
My favorite perhaps is forbidden rice. It's a black Asian rice. And you can soak it for 4 to 6 hours, room temperature, and it's beautiful. It's in like an al dente sort of texture, and you can use it in salads. I also grind it in a coffee grinder, and I use it as a flour base to make crackers in the dehydrator.
Can you do that with other grains as well? Brown rice, barley, just simply soak it overnight?
I believe that you could. It's something that I've tried with wheat berries, but I'm not a really big fan of gluten in my body. It doesn't feel good for me. I haven't tried the starchier grains too much because I've just been so fond of the forbidden rice itself. And I'll usually mix it with things such as milled flaxseed, whole chia seeds to get a whole bunch of different nutrients in at once.
Great. So you are consuming a lot of vegetables?
A great deal of vegetables, a great deal of fruit
Fruit.
as well.
Mhm,
Yes.
And what else?
I was going to say, and I find the diet itself is very hydrating, very satisfying. So I think one of the first things that people notice is they feel satisfied on smaller amounts of food because of the moisture content. Unless something is completely dehydrated, it provides a decent amount of water. It has that weight to it, but it also has that dietary weight to it, that it has a real dense nutrient content. Where when I was eating cooked food, it would take a huge plate of, and it was still organic chickpeas and organic brown rice, so it was good food, but I found that smaller and smaller amounts would satisfy my body in general.
Absolutely, because you're losing the nutrients, which is what your body needs. Wonderful. Now, tell me a little bit about how you go about presenting this food and helping someone transition. So if someone is eating cooked food now and they're really thinking about this diet, how do you transition them from one to the other?
I help them to develop a bunch of different recipes. So I suggest something like, even if it's very far from where they're eating currently, 1 meal a week. And that one meal a week then maybe becomes, dinner 3 times a week. And then it becomes, a couple full days a week of 100% raw. So it can be a nice slow transition. Some people will make a faster transition. Mine personally was fairly quick. I was vegan for a number of years, for 8 or 9 years before I switched to a raw vegan diet, but it was literally a pull from inside. I've known about it for years. I had tried it many years ago and it wasn't quite a fit then. All of a sudden it was just a desire and I went through with it.
Well, presumably your body was ready for it too.
It must have been asking for it, or else I wouldn't have been thinking of it.
It must have been asking for it. Now your son, you have a 5-year-old son?
Yes.
Is he also eating a raw food diet?
When he's with me, he tends to favor raw foods, but he's certainly not 100% raw. He is 100% vegan though.
And have you seen a difference in his dietary aspects as far as his energy level, his attention levels since he's gone to raw food?
He has always been an extremely energized boy, and I would imagine it's because he's grown up on, whole foods, minimal processed foods. Anything that's remotely processed is homemade. My mother makes him waffles that are gluten-free, filled with flax seeds, etc. As far as the raw foods are concerned, I've seen him show me that he's growing more and more connected with them. He has more and more of a desire to eat them. So I feel he's being pulled towards them.
Well, I totally concur with my clients. As they shift and change their diets, they actually start craving healthy foods once they start putting healthy foods in. So totally concur with that. Show me what you have here.
Yes. So one of the things is that people are a little freaked out because they have this image of what a meal is supposed to look like. And a meal, honestly, to me, can look much more like what we used to think of as a snack. It could be crudités, cut up vegetables with a protein and nutrient-rich pâté made mostly with nuts and seeds and cold-pressed oils, etc. But I brought some things that look a little bit more like what you would, consider normal food. So these are raw sushi rolls with nori, the same stuff that's around regular sushi, and they have a green curry paste in them, which has a nice hot spice, which helps because when you're eating raw food in the winter, it is, it doesn't have to be cold. It can be room temperature, but it's not adding any warmth to your body. And that's one of the few things that I wouldn't even say is a downside, but just so different. You have to really create your own practice around it.
Absolutely.
So the green curry, my body's obsessed with it lately. And there's also, chives, red bell pepper, avocados, and cucumber slices in there. These are kelp noodles, and they come just like that. They're raw, and they're full of minerals from kelp, which is a seaweed. And so I have a Kalamata olive and raw pine nut, sort of a pâté that I made for that, and then some more of the chives, avocados, sesame seeds. So all these foods, share some common ingredients. And then this is something more of actually a summery sort of lasagna. You could also take something like this and put it in a dehydrator, which would give it a little more of that cooked kind of richness and solidness. But this one's a little lighter and made with cucumber slices. Super thin. Again, bell pepper, the same Kalamata olive and pine nut paste. And the avocados. There's a little bit of a sun-dried tomato pesto on top of that as well.
It looks fabulous. Now, people who are watching this see this and they say, wow, that looks delicious. But I also know they're saying, how long does it take to put something like that together? So how long did it take you to put something like that together?
Honestly, the actual food prep time, oh my gosh, maybe 15 minutes. This is all really quick. Kelp noodles, pull them out of a bag, grab and go, chop up the avocado. It took me 2 to 3 minutes to make the Kalamata olive and pine nut mixture. And so that was super quick. These rolls, again, it's just chop and go. This as well, the hardest thing was making sure to consistently slice the cucumber thinly enough, but not break the pieces. So if you have a mandolin, it's super quick. And that's one of the best things about raw cooking is that it's so much quicker than actual cooking. It takes 45 minutes to cook beans, 45 minutes or so to cook most grains. Even if you use a rice cooker or a crock pot to do these things, there's time. When you're cutting up vegetables and cooking them, there's time involved in that. That if you put that time all together, you can prepare your food and it can be grab and go for 24 hours.
For 24 hours.
Very
That is wonderful. One of the aspects that I love that you're doing, in addition to teaching this, is that you're helping helping people to recognize that this is an art. And I like to teach my clients, although I do not teach cooking, but I like to tell them to be creative. Do not be stuck because they become fearful
Yes.
when they start to make these changes. They're fearful of not knowing how to do it and that. So it's an art form, cooking really is, and it can be very relaxing. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I find it extremely meditative. I've met all sorts of people with varying levels of, like yoga sort of involvement that tend to take this very kind of Zen perspective on cooking. They enjoy it, or they just notice, I really like chopping my vegetables by hand. I prefer not to use, a machine to do so. And so I like to teach that because the energy you surround your food with really does become part of you along with the physical properties of the food.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much for doing the work you do and for
Thank you.
teaching what you do. That's a great benefit to so many women and men who want to make the changes but maybe are a little overwhelmed to stand in that kitchen by themselves, so you can guide them through that process. Thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Appreciate it. If you would like more information about Laura and the work she does, go online to lauraharrisonyoga.com. Well, thank you for being with us again today. Happy New Year to all of you. I do hope you found my guests to be informative and inspirational. And I do encourage you to reach out to them with any questions you may have about their services. Thank you all for reaching out to me with your health questions. Continue to bring them in, and I'd be glad to help you in any way that I can. Until next time, be happy, be healthy, and be alive.